Okay. ज्वाइन होने दो, क्या बात, चल नहीं रहा है। तो मोबाइल पे छोड़ दिया, एक साथ लिखने वाला है। Hi guys, good morning everyone. Am I audible? Good morning guys. Online, am I audible guys? इनसे क्या हो रखा है, कोई रिप्लाई भी नहीं देता यार ये लोग. Fine. I'll proceed. So in the last class we have we were seeing what constructors, right? Okay, so let me just write some programs, few more things in the constructor. 1 second, I'll share my screen. Okay, is the eclipse visible? Okay, so let me just come back here. See here, constructor means what basically we have understood till now. It is nothing but a special type of setter which is used to initialize the instance variable. This we understood. Apart from that, it gets automatically executed, and there are two types of constructor. One is default constructor, one is parameterized constructor. What is the default constructor? It is nothing but which has 0 parameters. Parameterized constructor means at least one parameter it should be there. This much is clear. And constructor do not have return type and has the same name as the class name and do not participate in inheritance. This much we have understood. So let's come back here. Okay, so let me create a class. Class name, I'll tell it as something called parent. Okay, otherwise instead of parent, let me give it as something called what example can I say? Yeah, let it be parent. Okay, I'll create a constructor here. Okay, constructor, and I would like to create one, give a message here. I'll tell it as something called sys out. I'll tell it as parent default. Okay, default. And I'll also create one some variables here. I'll tell string name. Okay, I'll tell something called int age. Two variables I have. Okay, two variables I have created. Now what I'll do, I'll also create a parameterized constructor here. Okay, you can see here parameterized constructor has been created. Am I clear till here? What I'm doing, I have created a class called parent. Inside that, two variables are there. One is name and age, and two constructors I have created. That is, one is default, one is the parameterized constructors. Till here, is it clear? Now, here, what I'll do here is, I would like to create an object of this class. I'll tell new parent, and I'll give some value here as something called Sachin, and age is something called 55, and I'll create a reference called P. Now, what is happening here? While creating an object of a parent, I'm passing two parameters here. Now, here, when I execute this program, it will check, okay, object need to be created. For which one I need to create an object? How do we create an object? By using a parameterized constructor. Means while creating an object only, I'm passing the parameter. Those parameters will be collected here and it will get initialized in these two. This reduced to variable means inside this one, it is going to get initialized. Okay. Now, what I'll do, I would like to create one more object. I'll tell new parent here. Okay. Now, I'll tell it as P2. Now, this time what is happening? One more object is getting created, but this time object will be created by using what? Default constructor. Am I clear? Now, in the last class, one student asked me one question that till today, we have not created any constructors, but still we were able to create an object. Yes, how it was happening? Because internally, when you create an object, JVM will go to that particular class and it will check, okay, user is calling default constructor. Is the default constructor is there? Let me execute. Since there was no constructor, JVM will automatically, internally, he will only add a default constructor and that would have been executed. But for you, for a user, it will not be visible. Why? Because even though that constructor was getting executed, inside that there was no implementation. It was just one empty constructor. Got the clarity? Even though constructor is not written, JVM will implicitly put a default constructor. JVM will not put a parameterized constructor. JVM will always deal with the default things only. Am I clear? Now you tell me, if I call this line, what will happen? It will come and check, it will execute it. If I'm creating this like this object, means it will come and execute this part. Am I clear? Now, if I don't give this, let me come here. Let me just delete this part. Okay. Can you see error is coming up in this line number 12? Why? Because I am creating an object of a parent class and calling what? Parameterized constructor. Now what I told, JVM will put a default constructor, but not parameterized constructor, hence error is coming. Now similarly, if I comment this line, can you see error is coming up? No comment. Now it's not coming. Why? Because it will check if it is there, user defined constructor, it will print, execute it. Otherwise, JVM will put a default constructor. Clear? Take down this as a note. Wait, let me, okay. Copy this program, then you take a note. With the example, it will be easy for you to do a revision. For you, is it visible? Visible. शशि थोड़ा इस तरह घुमा देना, आपको दिखेगा। डन ना? Below that you take down a note, that is in the above program, in the above program, the above program, we are creating an object of a, we are creating an object, we are creating an object by using a default constructor, default constructor, default constructor, even though default constructor, even though there is no default constructor, even though there is no default constructor explicitly defined in parent class, explicitly defined in parent class, parent class. In this scenario, JVM will automatically, in this scenario, JVM will automatically creates a internal default constructor, internal default constructor with empty implementation, with empty implementation, and executes it, and executes it. Okay, now tell me, who is the parent of this parent class? Object class. In the, even though construct JVM will put a default constructor, in that also implicitly super method call will be made. It will go to object class and it will come back, it will execute that constructor and it will come back. Clear? Now let me just copy this program. Done? Below that you write down, in the above program, in the above program, error is coming because, the above program, error is coming because you have written, right, output is equals to error, you just mentioned, okay, output is error, and below in the note you write down, in the above program, error is coming because we are creating an object of a parent class, we are creating a object of a parent class, object of a parent class by using a by using a parameterized constructor, parameterized constructor, parameterized constructor, and since there is no parameterized constructor, since there is no parameterized constructor, explicitly what is that? Explicitly defined. Since there is no parameterized constructor, explicitly defined, in parent class, here JVM will not create, here JVM will not create parameterized constructor, JVM will not create parameterized constructor internally, hence error is coming. Okay, understood? What did we learn from these two things? If default constructor is not mentioned, it will create. If default, if parameterized what is not mentioned, it will not create. Clear? Okay. Now, see here in the parent class, I have two parameters. One is the default, one is the parameterized. Object I'm creating is fine. Now, if I delete the this one default constructor, okay, listen to the scenario carefully. Here I'm creating two objects, both the constructors are present, it is fine. We understood in the previous program that if default constructor is not there, JVM will create default constructor, no error will come. If I delete this default constructor and if I call the what is that default constructor here, do you think JVM will create, right? Yes or no? Now look at here. Can you see here error is coming?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Why? Because here JVM will create a default constructor in any of the class automatically only and only if none of the other constructor is explicitly present. Here parameters I have already defined, then he will not create any constructor. Our JVM has a ego problems. Okay, he's saying, hey, already have defined something, I will not create a default constructor for you. Okay, JVM will create default only and only if no other explicitly constructor is defined. Clear? Copy this. तो create हो जाएगा. All these are MCQ questions. Okay, they may ask. Online understanding, right? Please yes, respond something. Ask me if you have any doubts.
Yes, sir. Understand.
Okay. Done. Make it fast. Completed. Below that, you write down a note. In the above program, error is coming. The above program, error is coming while creating a object of a parent class. While creating a object of a parent class. While creating a object of a parent class using default constructor, because JVM is not creating a default constructor automatically, full stop. Write down the next point and below that only. JVM will create default constructor internally only if no other constructor is explicitly defined. To be precise, guys, make a small change in that. Only if no other parameterized constructor. Okay, if no other parameterized constructor is explicitly defined. No other parameterized constructor is explicitly defined. Understood these scenarios? Okay, very important. Tell me, when does assume that I have, let me give you a scenario. If I have a class called student, inside that default constructor is not been defined explicitly. If I try to create an object by using a default constructor, will it execute? Yes, sir. Okay. If I have a class called student, inside which parameterized constructor is defined, and if I try to create an object of the class by using default constructor, will it execute?
No, sir.
No, error will come. If I try to create for the same class by using a parameterized constructor, will it execute?
Yes, sir. Now
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. Now let's increase the little bit complexity of these programs. Okay. Now I'll create one more class. Okay, I'll tell class called a child. I'll tell it as an extents called parent class. I believe this example I have already shown. Okay. Now, why do you think the error is coming here?
The super class, sir. Super keyword not written, sir.
Yes, very good. Why? Because here, when I create an object of the child class. Okay, so let me tell you as new child here. Okay, let me give some value as Sachin and 55, and I'll create a reference. I'll tell C here. Okay, you can see here, even though I'm creating an object here, control will come directly here. But internally, what will happen? The control will check, the JVM will check before executing this one. Is there any parent class for this one? Yes, there is a parent class called parent. Then for that, it will make a internally super method call here like this. and then it will go to the parent class default constructor. Is the default constructor present? No, right? Hence error will come. And JVM will not create a default. Why? Because in the parent class there is a parameterized constructor defined. Yes. If in case I remove this parameterized constructor, at that time it will work.
Yes, sir.
Are you sure? Kya Shashi chalega? Very good. See here, error has gone. Got it clarity? It will make a super call. It will go to the parent class. It will check default constructor. Other constructor has already created, so he will not create a default constructor. Understanding? Okay. Copy this program also quickly. If you have understood, you don't want to write, let me know. I'll skip and I'll go to the next concept. If you want to write, you can copy. Right. Okay, make it fast. Done? Make
Yes,
it
sir.
fast.
Done, sir.
Do I have to give note you or understood? Understood, right? हाँ लिखवाना है ठीक है पढ़ा Are you sure? Very silent यार पूरा. Ask some doubts. Understanding. Okay, take down a note below that. In the above program, error is coming because in the above program, error is coming because when the parameterized constructor of child class is called, when the parameterized constructor of child class is called, before executing it, JVM will internally make a super method call, internally make a super method call and calls the default constructor of parent class. default constructor of parent class. Parent class. Since parameterized constructor is explicitly defined, parameterized constructor is explicitly defined in parent class, JVM will not create a default constructor. JVM will not create a default constructor internally. Hence, error is coming. Okay, done. Fine, guys. So this is about the constructors, how from where to where the callings is going to be done, or which if is defined where what error will come. If not, what error will come. The same thing, permutation combination is going to happen. Okay. Now take down the heading as local chaining. Local chaining. Local chaining. Below that definition, you write down the process of calling one constructor to another constructor within the same class. Is known as local chain. So what is happening here? In this class, how many constructors I have? 3 constructors. One is the default, one parameterized, 2 parameterized constructor. So what I'll do, I'll create an object of a, what is that? A constructor. Now, okay. Now we have in the encapsulation concept, we have seen the concept called shadowing problem. Okay, what is the shadowing problem? So highest priority will be given for the local variable. Okay, so at that time the instance variable are not getting initialized. Okay, so that is called shadowing problem. How do you overcome the shadowing problem? By using this key. Okay, now this local chaining is what means the process of calling one constructor to another constructor within the same class. This process can be achieved by using this method. There we use this keyword. Here we'll use this method. Okay, now if I execute this program, what should be the output of this program? Default. Yes or no? I'm calling a default constructor. Default constructor is defined. So what will happen? Output should be default. Okay. Now, if I run, I'll show you the output also. You can see default is getting executed. Now, from the default, I want to make a call for 2 parameterized constructor. Okay. At that time, I'll make use of this method, and inside this one, I'll pass the 2 parameters. Tell me, what are the parameters? Two parameters expecting? One is string, one is a integer. I'll tell Sachin, comma 50. Got the clarity? Now you should remember this method call should be written in the first line of a constructor only. If you write in second or third line, error will come. Okay. Now look at here. If I bring this line down, can you see error is coming up? So this method call should be written in the first line of a constructor only. Is it clear? So what should be the output now? Think and tell me.
The two param.
Sorry.
The two param.
Sachin and 55 will be printed up. Yes. Understood? Output will be two param, then default. Why? Because if you see here, 1 second. One second. Where is that pencil? 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, let me explain like this only. Visible, right? Eclipse. See here, when I'm calling a constructor here, default constructor. So immediately control will jump to default constructor. As soon as it comes down, can you see here I'm calling another constructor? So what will happen? Control from here, it will jump to this constructor. So it will come and it will execute two parameterized constructor. After that, is there anything left? No, right? Again, it will go back to the same line. Okay. So this line execution is already completed. So then it will execute this. So what should be the output? Two param constructor, then the default. If you want, I'll execute. Can you see here? Two param and default. Got the clarity? Okay. Copy this. Wait 1 second. I'll write a few more changes inside this one. If in case, if I write here as this of, let me tell Dravid. Now what should be the output of this program? Yeah, do you agree with that answer? Shashi, answer kya hai? Online, anyone
No.
you can also explain?
Sir, no, sir. So what is the object we have created? So
Okay, you see, look at the object also. Default object we have created.
so first, sir, it will one param, two param, then default.
Okay. सुशी आपने क्या बोला? कैसे आएगा वन पैराम डिफॉल्ट? देखो एक बार फ्लो में जाओ. See here, come to the main method. I'm creating object of a parent class. So directly it will jump to the parent class. Before executing this one, this call I'm making a, so it will jump to two parameters constructor. Before executing this one, I'm making call to one parameters constructor. Again, it will jump to this one. So one parameters will be executed. It will go back to the same place. This line is completed, so it will execute two parameters. Again, it will go back to this place. Again, this line is completed, so it will execute a default. Got it? Copy this program. Any doubts, please feel free to ask the questions. Jay, okay. 5 minutes, I'll leave. Well, okay. Guys, make it fast. Hey, you guys didn't inform me today you have Python class. अच्छा जल्दी बोलते यार, मेरे को जल्दी स्टार्ट करता हूँ यार. Within next month, we have to finish your syllabus. Hopefully, core Java तो होना हो जाएगा. Next month. जून में खत्म कर दूंगा. Done ना? Core Java collections. What is there now? See, two pillars we have completed: inheritance and this one. Abstraction and polymorphism is very simple. One small change if I show, same like inheritance, small changes I have to show, it will be done. Next, interface is pending, and after that, collections is pending, and multi-threading is pending. After done, core Java is completed. What else is there? That small topic only. You want me to cover in core Java? Let's see. If possible, core Java, otherwise in advanced Java, I'll cover it.
Returns and copying.
File handling is important.
Now, file handling, actually, if you see here, we don't deal output you want, one second. Maps and all comes in collections only. Okay, list, maps, sets, all those things will come in collection only. You are asking about file IO, right? Now, file IO, we don't actually write in core Java. Why? Because now we have something called frameworks. Okay, in the frameworks, all our frameworks will do. Learning now, file IO is good to have a knowledge, but we are not using that in an IO. Okay, because many inbuilt class methods have came in collection, frameworks that we are using. Still, if you want, we can have a 1 or 2 class and we can do file IO.
Instead of file handling,
जेनरिक्स अगर मुझे पढ़ाना है तो मुझे जावा जेडीके 1.8 फीचर्स स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा. If I start JDK 1.8 features to teach streams only, it will take more than 3 weeks. JDK 1.8 features. So many lambda functions are there, functional interfaces are there, many things are there. Those things and all is not there. Relax.
but I think according to only 3,000 are very important. Default keyword and functional interface and lambda expression.
I have already given examples for lambda expressions and functional interface. Hey, padhaya tha. I do remember, see, in that place only I have written. Lambda expression means what? I'll tell you. Hey. Okay, I'll tell you. You just tell me whether that is covered or not. Lambda function is nothing but nameless function. Okay. You need not to write a return type. You need not to write a name of the function. You need not to define the parameters of the function. You need not to return the return keyword. All those things one by one I erase and show you. नहीं दिखाया. ठीक है. Okay, if I get a time, I'll do that also. I can give the introduction part. I can explain you how it works. If I can't teach you JDK 1.8. If I start teaching it, 2 to 3 months is required for that only, because it is vast and JDK 1.8 is not required for you to clear interview on it. Okay, so but lambda expression functional interface I'll teach. I'll show you how it works. Completed? Copied? Fine, guys. You have a Python class, so let's wind up. Tomorrow we'll start little bit early so that we can quickly cover the syllabus. Now I can understand it is getting delayed, but don't worry, I'll finish it quickly. Thank you, guys.